Yes.
Good morning, everybody. I welcome our respected dean, our respected medical superintendent, our respected vice principal, our respected controller of examinations, our respected academic coordinator, and we also welcome all our colleagues, faculties, and my dear students. I welcome Dr. S. Balaji, neonatologist, for accepting our invitation and in spite of busy schedule and consenting for this webinar. And this common newborn problems topic is selected by him, and it is an important and interesting topic for all of us, and also very interesting for the students. I welcome you, sir. I now request for Dean to say a few words.
Good morning to one and all. Respected Chairman, Madam Chairman, is behind all these academic activities, and our academic officer, Dr. Dhanshekar, our Vice Principal, Dr. Shah, and our Medical Superintendent, Dr. Mohan, the professor of the Department of Pediatrics, the other professors and the associate professors and the faculties in the Department of Pediatrics. I congratulate them for organizing this webinar on common problems in newborn. I know Dr. Balaji very well. Congratulations. Nice to meet you. We have to meet you and this type of only webinars and the video only. So personally, when the corona period, are unable to meet.
Yes, sir.
The fine. So
thanks, sir.
God bless you. So
thank you, sir.
Hope this session will be a useful one for the JRs and junior doctors who are going to practice in pediatrics. And it will be useful for the delegates and the people who are taking part in this. And he is going to cover all the newborn problems. He is a very good teacher also. So our student and teacher become a professor. No? You are the professor there. Congratulations. Anyway, wish you all the best. I wish everyone a great success of this webinar. Thank you for giving this opportunity. Thank you.
And now welcome Dr. Arun Kumar to the speech.
Good morning, everyone. So it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our speaker for the day, Dr. S. Balaji. Dr. Balaji is a well-known neonatologist in Salem, and in fact, he is the first DM qualified neonatologist in Salem and surrounding districts. He is MBBS from Coimbatore Medical College in 2002. He finished his MD Pediatrics from Madras Medical College and DM Neonatology from Madras Medical College in the year 2014. Since then, he is serving patients of Salem and surrounding districts. Currently, he is practicing in Balaji Baby Center at Fairlands in Salem. He had been instrumental in improving neonatal care in our area. He had saved a 500-gram preterm neonate, the second lowest birth weight baby survived in Tamil Nadu. This speaks a lot about his clinical skills and professionalism. He had won many awards. His research on umbilical cord blood transfusion in newborn was awarded NNF Gold Medal Award in National Neonatology Conference in 2014. He had presented many papers in both national and state conferences and delivered many lectures in CMEs. He is the president of National Neonatology Forum Salem branch. He is national trainer in Advanced Neonatal Resuscitation Program India and certified administrator of Neurodevelopmental Assessment Scale. Sir, it's a very great pleasure for me to introduce you and have you here for this webinar, and we are eagerly waiting for the academic piece from you.
Thank you. You can start the scientific session.
Can I start, sir?
Yes, sir, you can start.
Yes. First of all, thanks, Dean sir and professors and my professor Sundarajan sir and my close friend Arun for this welcome, and thanks for the warm introduction. Without wasting time, straight away I'll go for slides. Today we are going to discuss about the common problems in newborn. So before going for the common problems, let me see a few points regarding the care of normal newborn. Then we go for the abnormal issues. So the newborn, which is a very this is the youngest field in medicine. Neonatology is the youngest of all the departments. Neonatology is the youngest field in medicine. It is day by day is emerging. So new concepts are coming, and medicine is changing. So we have to update our knowledge so that we can give the better care of a newborn. So before going for abnormal things, let me see a few points regarding which is normal, what to do normal, and how to care the baby at birth. So there are certain principles of newborn care at birth. That is establishment of respiration. So at the time of birth, the baby will not breathe, so that immediately after birth, the baby has to breathe normally. So we have to establish that the baby breathes normal at the time of birth. So next important principle is the prevention of hypothermia. So the baby is more prone for hypothermia. So because of there are a number of factors like reduced subcutaneous fat and large surface area of the skin and thin skin. There are some of the important factors which leads to the.
Balaji, open the slides. Slide share. You can go and open the slide share.
Slide. Oh.
Slides is not focused.
Slide share. Sir, I have shared the slide, sir. Are you able to share the slide?
Yes, sir. Snap it down. Click the link, sir. Click the link.
Sir, now, sir?
Double click. Double click.
Sir, is it sharing?
Snap it down.
Is it okay, sir?
No, sir.
1 minute, sir.
Iduva.
Slide share. Slide share.
சொல்லுங்க. ஹலோ. இல்ல. ஷேர் ஆயிட்டு இருக்கே. என்னதுல ஷேரிங் காமிக்குது? அருண். So we will see about shortly about the care of normal newborn at birth. So there are certain principles of care at birth. First is the establishment of respiration, because which is the most important step in resuscitation. And there is a second important principle is the prevention of hypothermia and establishment of breastfeeding and prevention of infection and identification of the risk neonates which requires care immediately after birth. So how to care a normal baby, how to carry a baby at birth. So preparation before delivery, we have to prepare delivery. So anticipate any abnormal things before the delivery itself, so that we can give the proper care for a baby. So immediate care at birth, at and after birth, and essential postnatal care. So before the clean hands, clean delivery, we have to establish the cleans at the time of birth, right? Proper hand washing and get at least 2 to 3 sterile cord size as a clean blades or clean scissors and clean sheets, small gauze pads, and clean plastic envelopes. These are some of the cleans, important cleans, which is required at the time of birth. So these are the 5 cleans to prevent infection. There is a clean towel, clean hands, clean blades, and clean cord care, clean cord ties. So facilities, what are the facilities that is needed for normal care at birth? There is a resuscitation corner with warmer. Okay, is that at the hospitals. So every hospitals which care a baby, which is going to deliver a baby, should have the proper warmer warmer at the time of birth. So resuscitation kit should be available. Important things in the resuscitation kits includes the ambu bag, appropriate size face mask, suction catheters, oxygen, Deeley's mucus sucker, so proper working condition suction machine on oxygen, etc. And important things is the recently added important things resuscitation kit is the pulse oximeter. If it's available, every baby should be provided with the pulse oximeter at the time of birth itself. So laryngoscope, ET tubes, different size of ET tubes, and medicines like adrenaline, naloxone, saline, sodium bicarbonate is no role at the time of birth. This is the oldest slide. So, and plenty of disposables like gloves, etc. So these are all the guidelines for neonatal resuscitation, which I am not going to deal with right now. So this is the vigorous baby at birth. That is, baby will cry normally at birth, and facial expressions are very good, and the tone is normal. That is, all the joints are flexion at the hip and knees and the elbows. So this is the normal vigorous baby at birth, needing only a routine care. Routine care is nothing but just cleaning the babies, and suction is needed, and giving mother to the baby, giving baby to the mother for the breastfeeding. And this is the limp baby at birth. This cyanosed and limp baby, not established respiration, so which needs resuscitation. So these are all some of the immediate care at the time of birth. That means prevent hypothermia. So the babies are at risk for hypothermia. So we have to give adequate warmth to prevent hypothermia. So eye care, skin care, and cord care. So proper cleaning of the baby, wipe off the amniotic fluid in the skin at the time of birth, and the proper cord care at the time of birth. That is, cutting the cord with the clean blades and scissors, and giving vitamin injection K, and breastfeeds within half an hour of birth, and search for any malformations. So these are all certain malformations which has to be identified at the time of birth, like simple umbilical artery, simian cries, any facial dysmorphism, and excess drooling of saliva. So search from top to bottom, search for from the top to the bottom, from the front to back and side. We have to look for anomalies, and we have to examine all the orifices, like eyes, nose, throat, and anal opening, and esophageal patency, whether there is a esophageal patency or not, like by putting the NG tube to the nasogastric tube, and rule out the choanal atresia by inserting nasogastric tube to the nasal. So these are some of the essential postnatal cares, and care of the umbilical stump, that is inspect umbilical cord for every 2 to 3 hours and look for any bleeding as there or not. Don't apply anything over the umbilical cord because it delays the healing of the cord. So just keep the cord by dry and it will resolve by its own. So cleaning of the eyes, clean the eyes at the time of birth daily, and there is no any external application over the eyes. If there is any sticky eyes, just use the normal saline, or if there is any signs of infection, give medications. If there is any nasolacrimal duct blockage, like repeated watering of eyes, some mothers will complain about the repeated watering of the eyes. So you just give nasal duct blockage. So if there is a duct blockage, that will leads to frequent watering of the eyes. So give massage like this. You have to give the massage at least 10 to 20 times morning, afternoon, and night. It will resolve by its in another 1 or 2 months. It will resolve. So care of normal neonatal birth. So we have to protect the baby. How to care the baby in with the mother side. When the baby is the mother side and the home, how to care. So baby has to be protected from the cold and the heat. So give the advise the mother to give proper care at the in home by giving not to expose the baby to the warmth, or excessive warmth should be avoided and excess cold should be avoided. So how to tell the mother, how to teach the mother whether the baby is in excess cold or not, or how to identify the early hypothermia means keep one hand over the abdomen and keep another hand over the sole. If this temperature looks similar, if he feels this both sides, if the temperature feels similar, the baby is in the comfort zone. If the baby's palms or soles is colder than that of the skin, then the baby is in the early hypothermia stage. So if it is identified, we have to keep the baby, cover the baby with the proper clothing, and we have to switch off the fan if the fan is on, or AC, or close the windows like that. We have to do to prevent the baby from hypothermia. So in similar way, we have to identify not to give excess heat to the baby also. And the proper cleaning of the umbilical stump with clean water. Don't apply anything over the umbilical cord. Routine application of antibiotic is to be avoided. So, and we have to advise the mother for exclusive breastfeeding day and night for 6 months, at least for first 6 months. So minimum 8 feeds per day. Okay, we have to identify now. Previously, it was there for demand feeding. Now we have advised this is for semi-demand feeding. What is semi-demand feeding? Previously, we have advised only demand feeding. That means if the baby demand for feed, then we have to give the feed. Otherwise, don't give the feed frequently like that. We are advised. But nowadays, we are advising the semi-demand feeding. That means if the baby cries for feeding, we have to give the feeds. But if the baby is not crying for more than 3 hours, then we have to wake up the baby and to give breastfeed. So if the baby is not at all crying for feed means, then we have to give at least 8 feeds per day. So every 3rd hours, we have to wake up the baby and give feeds. So 8 feeds per day. So if the baby is not taking feeds well, if not at all crying for feeds and not taking feeds well, then it is a warning sign, needs immediate hospital consultation. So what is a normal weight loss pattern in term baby? That means all babies at birth, baby's birth weight will get loose at around 10% for first 7 days. So roughly 1 to 2% per day, 1 to 2% of the birth weight will get loose. If the baby is 3 kg at birth, 1% of weight means 30 grams. 1 to 2% means 30 grams to 60 grams. The baby will lose per day for first 7 to 10 days. So at the end of 7th to 10th day, the baby will regain its birth weight. So if a baby birth weight is 3 kg, the baby will lose around 300 grams in first week, and the baby will regain the weight in another 2 or 3 days, or 3 or 4 days, so that at the maximum 7 to 14 days, the baby will reach its birth weight. So if the 3 kg, if the baby birth weight was 3 kg, it may lose his weight till 2.7 kg and regains its birth weight and reaches its birth weight at around 7 to 10 days. So after that, the baby's birth weight will be 30 grams per day for first 3 months. This is the normal weight pattern, because most of the parents will ask about, sir, my baby is not gaining weight at all. So how to counsel means we have to check the weight of the baby, and we have to decide whether the baby is gaining weight or not. And this weight gain pattern is also important for whether the baby is taking adequate milk or not. Most of the mothers will complain that my baby is not getting adequate food. My baby is crying for feeding. Sir, what to do? So in this questions, we have to tell objectively the weight pattern, discuss the weight pattern, and we have to show the weight pattern. If the baby regains his birth weight in 7 to 10 days, then it is normal. That means the baby is getting adequate milk from his mother. And so some mothers will complain at the end of 1 month, sir, my baby is not taking feeds well, not getting adequate milk. Shall I give cow's milk, like that? In this situation also, we have to, this weight pattern is important to discuss whether to show the mother or parents that the baby is taking adequate milk. If the baby is gaining weight after 7th to 10th day, if the baby is started gaining weight for 30 grams per day, on an average 30 grams per day, means that the baby is getting adequate milk. Then there is no need to give additional milk, like cow's milk and formula pills also not to be avoided. And also the baby should pass at least 6 times 6 times urine per day. So if this 2 is meted, then the baby's breastfeeding pattern is normal. So these are all some of the danger signs which needs immediate hospitalization. That is lethargy. The mother is the best person to say whether the baby is normal or not. So lethargy is the most important finding for hospital consultation. Another is the hypothermia. So I have explained how to identify the hypothermia at home, even by mother. So keep both hands, one hand over the abdomen and one hand over the palm or sole. If the abdomen temperature and the warm palms and sole temperature is same, then the baby is in normothermia zone. If the palms or sole temperature is lower than that of the abdomen temperature, then the baby is in hypothermia. So next is another important finding, danger sign, is the respiratory distress. So respiratory distress, and if the baby is fast breathing, if the mother says that the baby is fast breathing, and with or without retractions, or without grunting or abnormal sounds, then we have to check the baby. We have to keep observe the baby in hospitalization. And there is a cyanosis. If there is a cyanosis and convulsions, abdomen distension, bleeding through the NG tube, vomiting, or any umbilical bleeding, like that, we have to examine. And yellowish discoloration of the palms and soles, excess weight loss, and persistent vomiting. Regurgitation is normal. Regurgitation is normal because of gastroesophageal reflex, which is normal in newborn. We have to differentiate whether it is a gastroesophageal reflex or it is a real vomiting, which is normal. And diarrhea. And another important point is a diarrhea. So diarrhea, we have to differentiate from the transitional stool. Transitional stool is nothing but at the end of third to fifth day, the baby started passing yellow color of stools. First 3 to 5 days, baby will pass meconium, and after 3 to 5 days, the baby will start passing yellowish color stools will pass, formed stools the baby will pass. So at this time, the baby passes stools like diarrhea, like that frequent passing of stools with watery stools with like milky curd like structures will be there in the stools, so which is normal. And baby may pass stools 7 or 8 times per day, which is normal, because this is because of gastrocolic reflex. Wow. So before I told that is gastroesophageal reflex, which is normal. Regurgitation is normal, like that. Gastrocolic reflex is also normal in newborn. So every time the baby, if the baby taking feeds, after taking feeds, because of the distension of the stomach, the colon will evacuate. So because of this is called gastrocolic reflex, which is normal. So one famous, I don't know, I didn't remember author, pediatric gastroenterology author, in his books, the first word itself shows. So passing stools once in 7 days is normal, and in newborn, passing stools once in 7 days is normal, and passing stools 7 times per day is also normal. So number 7 is important in newborn. So passing stools once in 7 days. The baby may pass stools once in a week. It is also normal. And passing 7 times per day stools, passing stools 7 times per day is also normal in newborn, provided baby should take feeds well, there is no abdominal distension, there is no recurrent vomiting, there is no lethargy. Like that, if the baby is like that, and the baby passing stools every 5 to 6 times per day, which is normal, and baby passing stools 7 or 8 times once in 7 days, which is normal. So follow-up, what to do follow-ups? In the follow-up visits, we have to assess the growth of the baby by using the growth chart and developmental assessment of the baby, and early identification, identify the with the warning signs. We have to identify the abnormality in the baby, and we have to manage appropriately. So health education, we have to give the we have to advise exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months, and after 6 months only complementary feeding. So with this, I will go for the next slides, abnormality in newborn. So we have to identify the abnormal, we have to identify the sick newborn. We have to identify the sick newborn at the earlier time itself, so that we have to give the appropriate, we have to give the, we can give and initiate the proper care in order to achieve the better outcome. So early detection, prompt treatment, and early referral if required are necessary for good outcome. So problems, what are the problems in early diagnosis of sick newborns? So newborns, the baby will not be adult. They will tell that there are here I am getting pain like this. I am getting ear discharge. I am getting stomach pain like that. But the babies will not say anything. Hence, most of the symptoms are non-specific. So these are all the problems in early identification of the sick newborns. So problems in early diagnosis of newborns, because there is a problem because of the non-specific signs, and there are, even with the signs, there is difficulties in identifying the signs in preterms and low birth weight babies. So as I already mentioned, that the lethargy and poor sucking. Mother is the first person to say the baby, whether the baby is lethargic or active or not, and the sucking habit, the mother is the first person. So don't neglect mother's words, because mother is the first person to say whether the baby is active or not, and sucking habit. So next is another important finding for abnormality in the newborn is a capillary refill time. There is a normal capillary refill time is less than 3 seconds. If it is more than or equal to 3 seconds, it is prolonged. So this is how we have to identify the capillary refill time. So just over the sternum, press the finger for 5 seconds. 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have to release and see. See, this is how immediately after taking out the finger, this is how the picture will be like that. If this pale color refills within 3 seconds, this capillary refill time is normal. Okay, if it is prolonged, if it refills, if it take more than 3 seconds, maybe 4 seconds, 5 seconds, or 6 seconds like that, it is abnormal. Okay, this is the most important finding that every pediatrician or physician carrying the newborn to know. So what we think, if it is CRT is abnormal, capillary refill time is abnormal, there are certain certain findings behind this abnormal CRT. That is, the baby may have hypotension. In case of hypothermia also, CRT will be prolonged. In case of acidosis, metabolic acidosis of any cause, it may be a sepsis or non-sepsis of metabolic acidosis of any cause, CRT will get abnormal. So we have to identify the cause and with this abnormal CRT and correct the abnormality immediately. So another important problems is the respiratory problems. So what is a normal respiratory rate in newborn? 40 to 60 breaths per minute. This is the normal respiratory rate in newborn. So there should not be any retractions in newborn, subcostal or intercostal retractions. But in preterm and low birth weight babies, there will be very minimal subcostal and intercostal retractions will be there, which is normal. And the grunting should not be there. If the grunting is there, definitely there is the severe problem in respiration. And central cyanosis and apnea. So these are all the respiratory problems which has to be looked for in any baby. So how to count the rate? So respiratory rate should be counted in the quiet state and not immediately after feeding. So immediately after feeding or immediately after crying, the baby's respiration will be abnormal. That is, the respiration will be increased. So if at all we are observing the respiratory rate, the baby should be in the quiet state and comfortable state. Then we have to count the respiratory rate by looking at the abdominal movements and keeping the watch in front of our eyes, and just count the respiratory rate with full minute. Over full minute we have to count. So not 15 seconds and into 4. We should not do like this. So count the respiratory rate for full minute and decide whether the respiratory rate is normal or not. If the respiratory rate is 40 to 60, which is normal. If more than 60, which is abnormal. And look for retractions. So look for retractions in this subcostal region and intercostal retractions. Okay. Then on grunting. Moaning is different and grunting is different. Moaning is this is moaning. Grunting is so this is grunting. Okay. So, and look for central cyanosis and apnea. If the baby is apnea, there will be desaturation or bradycardia. There will not be any respiratory rate like that. This is very difficult, easy to identify apnea. So these are all some of the respiratory problems we have to look for while the baby the OPD room. So this is the retractions. Students are able to observe the retractions. So this is the retractions. This is the retraction. So next is the temperature. So normal baby's temperature is the 36.5 degrees centigrade to 35.5 degrees centigrade. Normal range. 36.5 to 37.5. Sorry, 36.5 to 37.5 is the normal temperature range in newborn. If the baby's temperature, that is skin temperature, is less than 36.5 degree, it is called hypothermia. Then it is classified as 3 types: mild hypothermia, moderate hypothermia, or severe hypothermia. Mild hypothermia is otherwise called as cold stress. If the temperature is skin temperature 36.5 degrees centigrade to 36 degrees centigrade, then we call it as cold stress. That is, baby is in the cold stress or mild hypothermia. If the baby's temperature is 36 degrees centigrade to 32 degrees centigrade, it is moderate hypothermia. If the baby's skin temperature is less than 32, it is severe hypothermia. Okay. So if the baby in the OPD room or in the emergency department, we have to one of the first important finding look for is the temperature of the baby. So temperature of the baby by looking at with the help of hand is just an objective. So it's not subjective, it is not objective. So the objective is more important for the management. So for this we have to check the baby's skin temperature in the axilla. So if the baby's skin temperature is between 36.5 to 36 degrees centigrade, that is, baby is in the cold stress, then we have to cover the baby, wrap the baby, provide external heat if needed. Like that we have to do. If the baby's temperature is between 32 degrees centigrade to 36, that is moderate hypothermia. Look for another danger signs, and provide warmth adequately by put the baby in the warmer and place the thermistor probe over the abdomen, and in the servo mode we have to keep the servo mode and baby to be warmed appropriately. There is a severe hypothermia, baby needs immediate care. Baby should be shifted to the NICU, and we have to manage. That is, the management of severe hypothermia is a little bit different topic that we will discuss later. So, passage of meconium and urine. So baby has to be passed within 24, pass meconium within 24 hours, and baby pass within 48 hours. Baby has to pass urine within 48 hours. So தமிழ்ல ஒன்று சொல்லுவாங்க, ஈஸியா ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கிறது, 1க்கு 2 நாள் 2க்கு 1 நாள். Okay, so meconium, baby has to pass meconium within 24 hours. So 2க்கு 1 நாள். So if the baby is not passed meconium within 24 hours, then it is a cause of concern. So so look for the patency of the anal patency. Exceptions is some preterm babies may pass after meconium after 24 hours also. So that is exceptions. So we have to rule out whether there is any anorectal anomalies if the baby is not passed meconium within 24 hours. And majority of the babies will pass urine within 48 hours because the urine baby passes urine. We have to classify the baby in the 3 categories: the pre-diuretic phase, diuretic phase, and post-diuretic phase. In the first 48 hours, the baby, all newborn babies will be in the pre-diuretic phase. Pre-diuretic phase, the baby will pass the urine very minimally, which is not noticeable, so difficult to identify. But 4 to 5% of the babies will pass at the time of birth itself, and after that, the baby may not pass urine. So within after 48 hours, baby will pass urine normally, but increased normal quantity. So if the baby is not passed urine even after 48 hours, then we have to rule out obstructive uropathy. So another important abnormal finding is the vomiting. The baby vomits. Complaint, the baby mother will complain is the vomiting. So look for whether there is a real vomiting or it is a regurgitation. So we have to rule out these two findings. So after rule out the gastroesophageal reflux, regurgitation, if there is a vomiting, so look for whether the baby is born with meconium stained amniotic fluid. If the baby is born with meconium stained amniotic fluid, the baby may ingest the meconium. That meconium will irritate the stomach. Then that may be the cause for vomiting. So rule out any meconium stained amniotic fluid. If the baby is born with meconium stained amniotic fluid and vomiting, give stomach wash. It will resolve. So look to rule out any systemic illness that may be the reason for vomiting, like sepsis, and rule out congestive cardiac failure. But if this is not in the early neonatal period, beyond neonatal period or late postnatal period, we have to rule out congestive cardiac failure also. And rule out other causes of increased intracranial pressure. So in preterm babies, like preterm baby may have intraventricular hemorrhage. That may be the cause for vomiting. Intraventricular hemorrhage, raised intracranial pressure, that is the maybe baby may vomit. So this is for preterm only, not for usually the term babies will not develop any intraventricular hemorrhage, very rarely. And asphyxiated babies. And look for last but not least, look for keep it in mind the metabolic disorders. The baby, otherwise term baby, well baby, first 2 to 3 days, the baby will not have any problems. Baby taking feeds well. On 3rd or 4th day, the baby may vomit, recurrent vomiting. So think of metabolic disorders like congenital adrenal hyperplasia, and the congenital adrenal hyperplasia and or galactosemia, etc. There are several number of metabolic disorders presenting like that. So if the baby is persistent vomiting, for every feeds the baby is vomiting, recurrent projectile vomiting and or bile stale vomiting, so rule out intestinal obstruction. So another important abnormal finding, often parents complaint, is the diarrhea. So as I already mentioned, we have to keep it in mind, the transitional stool. So transitional stool, we have to keep it in mind. If the transition is ruled out, if there is really a diarrhea, then look for infective cause and non-infective cause. So infective cause, especially infective cause, the acute gastroenteritis, which is usually not there in breastfed babies. The non-breastfed babies are more prone for infective diarrhea because of contamination like bottle feeding, pollard feeding, if not prepare or cow's milk. If not, cow's milk is not prepared like that, or if the mother or parent or caregiver who prepared the milk may contaminate the milk, so that the baby will get infection. So this is the cause for usually the infective diarrhea, which is common in non-breastfed babies. And non-infective causes of diarrhea, which includes maternal drug ingestion like ampicillin, maternal laxatives, may cause sometimes a diarrhea in newborn neonatal period. And rarely the metabolic disorders like inborn error of metabolism like that, and maternal thyrotoxicosis and baby neonatal thyrotoxicosis may cause diarrhea in newborn, and maternal drug addiction. These are all some of the rare problems. Another important abnormality is the cyanosis. So peripheral cyanosis, look whether there is a peripheral cyanosis or central cyanosis. Peripheral cyanosis forms and the extremities, all the extremities and outer edge of the lips, these and ear lobes. These are all the if the cyanosis is present in this situation, in this area only, then we can call it as the peripheral cyanosis, which is normal at birth. So at the time of birth, the baby will have some amount of peripheral cyanosis, which is normal at birth, usually seen in extremities due to this is because of cold. And central cyanosis is abnormal. Look for any central cyanosis. If the peripheral cyanosis is there, look for also central cyanosis and rule out the baby will not have any central cyanosis. If central cyanosis is there, then where to look for central cyanosis? Inner side of the lip and tongue. These are the common areas we have to look for central cyanosis. So if there is a central cyanosis, definitely if the pulse oximeter is there, or if you have any pulse oximeter, look for saturation. If the saturation is less than 95, and refer the baby for proper care. So for proper evaluation of cyanosis. So central cyanosis always needs appropriate referral seen in the inner lips, that is inner side of the lips and the mucosa, which indicates cardiac and or pulmonary disease. So this is peripheral cyanosis. So over the back of the hand, right? This is central cyanosis. So look over the tongue. Okay, this is central cyanosis. So now another important abnormality, there is abnormal signs in newborn is the jaundice. So see, the yellowish, typical yellowish baby. Okay. So this is how we have to look for yellow, whether the baby is having significant jaundice or not. Some amount of jaundice is there in the face, which is normal in the first 4 or 5 days, first up to 4 or 5 days. So this is how we have to look for jaundice. So press over the palms, soles, and immediately after removing the fingers, look for the discoloration. If the palms and soles is yellowish discoloration, then it's a severe, the baby will have severe jaundice, which needs immediate referral and management, proper management. So in general, there are certain another important points in jaundice. So jaundice is usually some physiological, sometimes it may be pathological. So what is physiological jaundice? Normally all the adult have the bilirubin level up to 2, total bilirubin level of 2 is normal. Whereas in newborn up to some 13, 14 or term baby up to 13, 14 is normal in term babies. This is because of immaturity in the liver enzymes. So it will take, liver enzymes will take for about 3 to 5 days for the complete maturation, so that it will handles the bilirubin level and it will dispose through the stools. If there is an excess production of bilirubin beyond the capacity of the liver's conjugation, then this bilirubin level will rise in the blood, which will be reflected in the skin. So if the bilirubin sees only in the face and up to the level of umbilicus, somewhere around 5 milligrams serum bilirubin, corresponding serum bilirubin level will be 5 milligrams per deciliter. If the levels between, if seen up to the umbilicus level, up to the level of umbilicus, that is from the head up to the level of umbilicus, the some bilirubin level, corresponding bilirubin level will be around 10 milligrams per deciliter. If the jaundice is, if you can able to identify the jaundice up to the level of knees, below the knees there will not be any jaundice, but up to the level of knees, if the baby is found icteric, that is jaundice, then corresponding serum bilirubin level will be around 10 to 15 milligrams per deciliter. If the levels is seen below the level of knees, if the jaundice is seen below the level of knees or palms and soles, definitely the bilirubin level will be more than 15 milligrams per deciliter. So which needs immediate referral and serum bilirubin level measurements. We have to do the serum bilirubin levels and manage appropriately. Whether the baby may, and look for the serum bilirubin level, there is a separate normogram will be there. Then management of jaundice itself is a separate big topic. So there is a separate normogram will be there. So we have to, in x-axis, there will be on x-axis or y-axis, we have to identify, put this baby's value on the particular the graph. And if based on this graph, we have to decide whether the baby required phototherapy or an exchange transfusion, or whether the baby is physiological jaundice. So based on this, there is no single value to decide whether the baby required phototherapy or exchange like that. It depends upon the time at which the bilirubin level was taken and risk factors of the baby. So this is a little bit complex, which for undergraduate level, for UG level, which needs a separate class. If time permits, I will take this class in another session. So another important finding is the excess drooling of saliva at the time of birth. If the baby drooling saliva continuously at the time of birth, then we have to keep the mind, look for the esophageal patency. Another important congenital anomaly which causes persistent drooling of the saliva is the tracheoesophageal fistula. So we have to keep it in mind, the tracheoesophageal fistula, if the baby process or continuously drools saliva. So to rule out this tracheoesophageal fistula, we have to insert the NG tube, nasogastric tube, through the nose with appropriate measurements. We have to put the nasogastric tube over the new nose. And if there is a hitting, if there is unable to pass the nasogastric tube over a certain period level, then we have to keep it in mind. The baby may have tracheoesophageal fistula. With this position, we have to check the X-ray. With this NG tube in situ, we have to take the X-ray chest with the neck and look for if there is any coiling of NG tube. If there is no coiling, if a tip of the NG tube is seen in the stomach region, then there is no tracheoesophageal fistula. If the tip is seen at the upper level, there is a coiling of NG tube, nasogastric tube, then the baby will have tracheoesophageal fistula, which needs surgical management. This is the X-ray. This is the side X-ray. This is the nasogastric tube. The left side X-ray, it shows this is a nasogastric tube, which is seen up to the level of the upper chest. Okay. This is the AP view, which shows there is a clear coiling of nasogastric tube. See, this is a clear coiling of nasogastric tube. So nasogastric tube has to pass like this, and the tip of the NG tube should be seen here. So here the NG tube comes and it takes U-turns and goes like this. This is called coiling of nasogastric tube. This is the classical finding in tracheoesophageal fistula. So another important findings, another important symptoms with which we have to look for any cardiac cause is the cyanosis. If the baby is having central cyanosis, then baby may have cardiac cause. Or if there is a baby is having tachycardia more than 160 per minute. Normal heart rate is 140 to 160 per minute. If the heart rate is more than 160 per minute, then we have to call it as tachycardia. But if we record the heart rate, the baby should be calm. If even after crying, immediately after crying, immediately after taking feeds, the baby's heart rate will be abnormal, like that 170, 180, 190, which is normal because of crying. if at all we are recording the heart rate, we are looking for the heart rate means baby should be in the calm quiet state. So if the heart rate is 140 to 160, which is 120 to 160 is normal in newborn. If more than 160, we call it as tachycardia. If there is a persistent tachycardia, then we have to refer the baby for appropriate centers for management. And look for murmurs. Look for, auscultate the chest, look for the murmur. If there is a significant murmur, we have to send the baby for evaluation. Because faint murmur, short systolic murmur, which is normal in newborn because of the presence of patent ductus arteriosus, which takes 24 to 72 hours, sometimes up to 7 days also for closure. So because of this, if there is a murmur, a faint murmur or very short systolic murmur, we have to keep the baby, watch the baby regularly. And if the baby is persistent to have a systolic murmur beyond 72 hours, and or if the baby have significant murmur, there is loud murmur with or without a cyanosis, tachycardia, then we have to refer the baby for cardiac evaluation. And look for hepatomegaly. If there is a hepatomegaly, so it is liver span 2 centimeters below the right costal margin. It is called hepatomegaly in newborn. If there is a hepatomegaly, significant hepatomegaly, refer the baby for evaluation. And look for shock. As I previously mentioned, identifying the shock, one important finding for identifying the shock is the capillary refill time. If the capillary refill time is prolonged and if the hypothermia is ruled out, then the baby may have shock. Then we have to refer the baby for evaluation. And cardiomegaly. Cardiomegaly, we can look this cardiomegaly in the X-ray. In general, heart will be heart size will be slightly more when compared to that of the pediatric. So another important abnormal finding is the abnormal weight loss pattern. If the baby, as I already mentioned, the normal weight loss pattern in the newborn is 1 to 2% per day. Suppose 3 kg baby means 30 grams to 60 grams weight loss is normal. If the baby weight loss, at around the 5th day, the baby may have weight loss of 150 grams, 3 kg baby. At the end of 5th day, the baby may lose his weight up around 150 grams. That is 5 days into 30 grams per day. So 5 into 30, 150. So 150, 200 grams weight loss at the end of 5th day of a 3 kg birth weight baby is normal. If the baby is 3 kg birth weight, at the end of the 5th day, the weight loss was 500 grams. Weight loss is 500 grams, then it is abnormal. So if it is more than 10%, so definitely it is abnormal. So needs immediate evaluation. And as I already mentioned, this is for term baby. 10% weight loss is term baby. If the excess weight loss more than 10% of the birth weight is abnormal in term baby. Whereas in preterm baby, it may lose his weight of around 15% from his birth weight. So to preterm baby, 2 kg, considered the baby's birth weight is 2 kg and preterm 34 weeks. So 15% means 10% means 200 grams, 15% means 300 grams. So the baby may lose 300 grams with birth weight of 2 kg. That means the baby may lose around 1.7, lose 300 grams. That means it may lose drops up to 1.7 kg also, which is normal. So these are all some of the danger signs. So there is abnormal signs. We have to keep it in mind to look for and ask for. That is lethargy. In summary, this is summary. This is the lethargy. The mother is a first person to say the baby is whether the baby is lethargic or not. And hypothermia. Then we have to check the baby's weight to look for whether the baby is having hypothermia or not. And respiratory distress to look for the respiratory rate, retractions, grunting. With this, we have to decide whether the baby is having respiratory distress or not. If the baby is having respiratory distress, we have to refer the baby. And if there is no respiratory distress, we have to reassurance. And cyanosis, we have to differentiate whether there is a peripheral cyanosis or central cyanosis. If there is only a peripheral cyanosis, which is normal in newborn, if there is a central cyanosis, and evaluate the baby for cause for central cyanosis. So every even OPD, every person who is looking for newborn should have at least one pulse oximeter in his OPD to check for the cyanosis, to check for saturation. because nowadays in recent times for past 3-4 years ago, it has been it has been decided that it is mandatory to look for critical cyanotic congenital heart disease by looking at the pulse oximeter. There is a separate topic that is called the pulse oximeter screening. That is, every baby before delivery we have to document the pre-ductal and post-ductal saturation. That is, pre-ductal means right hand, and post-ductal any limb beyond other than right hand. It may be lower limbs also. So we have to check these two area. What is the saturation level? If in two areas the saturation level is more than 95%, which is normal. If there is abnormal, if it is less than 95%, or a difference is more than 3, if one limb saturation is 95, if other limb saturation is 88, then there is some cardiac problem is there. We have to refer the baby for cardiac evaluation. This is called the pulse oximeter screening, right? So another important danger sign is the convulsion. Whether to look babies have any seizures and abdomen distension, okay, and bleeding. Bleeding means baby may have umbilical bleeding, or baby may have blood-stained vomiting. If there is a blood-stained vomiting, so there are certain causes like that. Swallowed maternal blood, it may be due to maternal swallowed maternal blood syndrome, or it bleeding from the baby's gastrointestinal tract itself, like vitamin K deficiency, that we call it as VKDB, vitamin K deficiency bleeding, right? Another important finding to look for the newborn, abnormal finding in the newborn, is the yellowish discoloration of the palms and soles. That is, as we discussed, that is jaundice. Look for significant jaundice. If the jaundice, if you can able to identify the yellowish discoloration of the skin below the level of umbilicus, then it is abnormal. We have to send the baby for blood investigation, evaluate for clinic investigation, jaundice in the blood. And we have to weigh the baby, check the baby's weight, and weight pattern. We have to assess what is his birth weight, on which day the baby's birth weight, whether the baby's weight loss pattern is or weight gain pattern is normal or abnormal. And vomiting, and another important find is the vomiting. And I already mentioned, we have to differentiate whether there is a reflex or real vomiting, because most of the mothers will say this is a vomiting. But if you evaluate carefully, if you evaluate the history carefully, it may be reflex. It may be regurgitation, which is due to reflex, which is normal, gastroesophageal reflex. So another important is a diarrhea. So if diarrhea, as I already mentioned, the diarrhea, transitional stool is normal. Okay. So if it is really a diarrhea, then we have to refer the baby for proper care. Thanks for patience listening.
Students, any questions? Thank you. What of thanks will you?
Any?
Organizing is an immense pleasure to deliver a vote of thanks for this event to all the dignitaries who are assembled here. First of all, I'd like to express my humble thanks to our chairman for the event. I'd like to thank the Dean sir, who has been working towards the goal of our webinars. I'd like to thank our Mr. sir and DP madam for the huge support all the times. My heart fills with a lot of gratitude and respect for our distinguished guest, Dr. Balaji sir, for not only sparing this invaluable time for us to break this occasion, but also for enlightening us with this wonderment upon the subject. Thanks a lot, sir, for sharing our concepts and enhancing our understanding related to common Indian problems. I'd like to thank our HOD sir, Dr. Sundaram Raja sir, who is the backbone of this event and our department. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank the organizing other department staff members, students, and audience for making this a grand service. Once again, I thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.